William, you're going to help me one last time is what Vecna told Will Byers in the official Season 5 trailer, and I have a feeling I know how Vecna is going to force Will to help him in Season 5 without Will having any say at all.
William, you are going to help me. One last time.
This theory is called the Eye of Vecna theory, and ladies and gentlemen, when I say this is one of the most intriguing and complex theories I've ever made, I am not lying. There's a lot of proof to back it up. It's canon with D&D, and to me, it makes a ton of sense. I'm so pumped to explain it to you guys. Before we get into it, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and join my Discord down below where we have over 1,300 members talking about Stranger Things every single day. And without further ado, let's get right into this theory. I believe that Vecna will take one of Will Byers' eyes out of his head and replace it with one of his own eyes. Like, Vecna will take his eye and put it into Will Byers' head in replace of one of Will Byers' eyes. And this is how Vecna will ultimately control, possess, and turn Will Byers evil in Season 5. Now you might be asking yourself, why would Vecna putting his eye into Will Byers' head do anything to allow Vecna to control Will Byers more? Well, in D&D, there's this thing called the Eye of Vecna. It is a magical eyeball. And when one attains this eyeball, they get powers. But the catch is, if you put this eyeball and graft it into your head and use the powers that the eyeball gives you, the more you use the powers, the more it allows Vecna to control you. But before we get into that part, let's talk about what type of powers this magical eyeball has. So in Dungeons & Dragons, the Eye of Vecna is one of the most powerful and cursed artifacts ever created. It's literally a magical eyeball ripped from Vecna's head himself. If someone removes their own eye and replaces it with Vecna's eye, they gain incredible powers: true sight, X-ray vision, and access to devastating spells. True sight is the power to see the truth behind everything: illusions, invisibility, hidden doors, and other dimensions. X-ray vision is X-ray vision. We all know what that is. You can see through walls and stuff. And then here are the 5 different spells that this magical eyeball could give you: clairvoyance, seeing or hearing things happening far away; Crown of Madness, mentally control another person for a short period of time; Disintegrate, fires a green energy beam that literally erases things; Dominate monster, seize control of a creature's mind; the Eye Bite, which puts enemies to sleep or makes them sick just by staring at them. So those are the 5 spells. Now, I saw a lot of people in my TikTok comment section when I made this theory and posted on TikTok say that, well, that wouldn't make any sense because Vecna doesn't even have any of those powers in Season 5, or some of those powers. And my response to that is, this doesn't have to be 100% canon to D&D. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate for the theory to, in general, make sense. Like, Will doesn't have to get every single one of those 5 spells and X-ray vision and true sight. He could just get like 3 of those things and the theory would still make sense. That's my point. But one thing I did notice about one of these spells was Disintegrate. It says fire a green energy beam that literally erases things. So maybe that's hinting at fireballs, because you remember in Season 2, or maybe it was Season 1, Will was painting or drawing a drawing of himself, Will the Wise, and Will the Wise was spitting out green fireballs, okay? And Joyce is like, why are the fireballs green? And he's just like, oh, it's the only color I had or something. So maybe that's a hint at whenever Will gets Vecna's eye inside of his own head, he will, you know, be able to spit out green fireballs. I think that would be freaking insanely amazing. But regardless, that's the magical eyeball of Vecna, and that's what it could potentially do if Will Byers actually attains it and Vecna puts it into his head. And let me remind you just one more time, the more you use this eyeball, the more control Vecna has over you, and eventually it will turn you evil and fully take over your body, sort of just make you another version of Vecna, or just a right-hand man. Now, here are all of the clues, details, hints, and just general plot points that I've gathered that make this theory make sense. Number 1, the psychic connection between Will Byers, the Upside Down, Vecna, the Mind Flayer, the whole entire connection. That's the number 1 reason why it makes sense, okay? Because in the Season 5 trailer, Vecna brings Will to him and says, Will, you're gonna help me make beautiful things, or whatever. He said, William, you're going to help me one last time. And this could be Vecna saying, like, I'm gonna give you my eyeball, I'm gonna put it into your head, and then you're gonna be forced forced to help me one last time. The second reason is the show is completely inspired by D&D, and the Eye of Vecna is a big part of D&D. At least I think it is. I've never played D&D, so hopefully I'm not just pulling all of this out of my you-know-what. But apparently it's a big part of D&D, and the show is canon to D&D, so therefore the theory would make sense that way. And the third thing is, ladies and gentlemen, well, we'll get into the posters after I say this. In season 4, there was a scene that hinted at these eyes, or people seeing Max. Okay, so whenever Max was in season 4, she was in the bathroom. This is when she was starting to get possessed by Vecna, or Vecna was getting into her head. She was getting haunted by demons, okay? And she was staring in the mirror in the bathroom, okay? At Hawkins Middle School, high school, wherever it was. And on the wall, there was writing that says, like, I see you, and my eyes are on you, or whatever. It just said something about eyes seeing Max in two different sentences. One was below the mirror, one was to the top of the right of the mirror. So I thought that was very interesting that eyes were mentioned in one of the frames in season 4. And then the big hint that I got from this is all of the posters and one particular scene from the season 5 trailer. So first, let's go through the posters. The first poster I want to talk about is the main Stranger Things season 5 poster. As you can see, one of Vecna's eyes is just dark and you can't see it, okay? So that's a hint right there. But also, right below the eye that's covered on the poster of Vecna's, you can see Will Byers is lined up with it. So, in my opinion, that could be another hint. Will's lined up with the eye that is missing because the eye is going to be inside of Will. The second poster was the Vecna's Curse poster. Now, on this poster, you can see all the main characters, all the main kids, and you can see every single one of their eyeballs, besides one of Will's eyeballs, because, you know, they're hinting at he's potentially going to get that replaced with Vecna's eye. And then the third poster was this other poster that had the same exact thing. Will's one eye was dark and covered and you couldn't see it, the same way Vecna's eye was dark and covered in the main poster and you couldn't see it. So there are 3 different posters that hint at Will missing an eye and potentially getting it replaced with Vecna's eye. And then the last thing that hinted at Will Byers potentially getting Vecna's eye grafted into his skull in season 5 was in the official season 5 trailer when we had a clear view, a clear shot of Vecna. You could see that his eye, you couldn't see it. It was just too dark. They made it to where you couldn't see the eye. You couldn't really see the eye socket, so you couldn't see the eye out of his body, but it looked like he didn't have an eye. And I'm going to put the picture up on the screen. You can see it right here. There's another hint right there, and it was in the season 5 official trailer. And this whole entire theory makes so much sense because this is an easy way for Vecna to possess Will. You know, he like, if he puts his eye into Will doesn't really have a choice. He's gonna use these powers, try to help his friends, and the more he uses them, the more Vecna's gonna be able to control him, and then, you know, before you know it, he's the puppet master. So that, it's just, it all plays into Vecna's hands, and it makes a lot of sense. And so I think this could potentially be the entire storyline of season 5, to be honest with you. It could be the storyline. It's absolutely insane. I love this theory so freaking much. Also, this theory could play into the other theory where it's like Vecna's body is decaying, so he needs another vessel to put his mind in. And maybe his eye works as his mind because it's a magical eyeball or whatever, and Will would basically turn into Vecna because Vecna's body's decaying. Like I said, every single season, his body is getting less human and less human and less human. And we saw in season 5, his arms are basically, they have holes in them and they're just vines. So every single season, Vecna's body is getting worse and worse and worse. Maybe he needs to transfer his mind into a new body, and Will is that body that he wants to go into, or that he wants to, Will's the person that he wants to be the next Vecna or something. And this would also play into the theory that in season 5, Will Byers is going to get powers because the magical eyeball will give him powers, but little does everyone know, it will also eventually kill him. And the question is, if this theory were true, how would Will survive? And if he did survive, would he be blind in one eye? Which I would assume so, yes. But I honestly, I think if this happens, he doesn't survive. I think he eventually dies and sacrifices his life somehow. Like, takes over the possession and just turns on Vecna, uses all of his might, and eventually just dies. And I think that would be the perfect ending for season 5. I would freaking love that. And I know a lot of people don't want Will to die. I don't want anyone to die, people. But this storyline is so freaking awesome. I think it would work perfectly in season 5. Let me know if you guys have any questions about this theory, if it made any sense. I believe I explained it to the best of my ability. But if you guys have any questions, I'll try to go through the comments and answer them. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, join my Discord down below. And I really hope this theory comes true. It makes so much sense, and I had a lot of fun making it, a lot of fun talking about it, to be honest with you. But I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you have a great rest of your day. Join my Discord, like I said, and enjoy these last 2 months, guys. It's the last 2 months of Stranger Things. It's gonna be one hell of a ride, and I hope to enjoy it with you guys. And yeah, guys, most importantly, just have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next one.